Welcome back, everyone. Today we are going to learn about factoring by using GCF. So what's the difference between factoring and just finding the GCF? Well, back when we were multiplying polynomials, we would literally take the number from the outside along with the variable and distribute it in or multiply. So we would end up here with 5x cubed minus 5 times 8 is 40. X squared, since I see two x's there. And 5 times 2 is 10. And don't forget about your x tagging along for the ride. Now, what factoring does is it takes this expression, or our polynomial, the 5x cubed minus 40x squared plus 10x, and what our ultimate goal is to see what is our greatest common factor of all of our pieces. So we'll find out what is our GCF of 5, 40, and 10. So make our list. So overall, 5, 40, and 10 all share a factor of 5, which is the largest common factor between all three pieces. So 5 is our GCF. And we also have at least one x that we can pull from all three terms. So 5x is our GCF according to what we have written. Now, that's not the only thing we're going to do. We're also, when we pull the greatest common factor from each of our terms, we're also going to have something left over, or what we call the remainder. And we also have to include that in our final answer. So let's get started and show you exactly how that works. So our steps for finding or factoring by using GCF is the first is to actually find the GCF. So you are going to find your GCF, which are going to come from the coefficients or the numbers in front, which is what we did here. The 5, 40, and 10 are the coefficients. And then you're also going to take the smallest power on the variable. So smallest exponent. Then what you'll do for me is divide each term by the GCF. So we're going to divide each of those terms by your GCF that you find. And then last but not least, you're going to put your remainder in parentheses to show that you have completely factored. So let's try example number 1. So first things first, we need to figure out what are our factors of 8 and 72. Let's list them now. So according to what we found, we should see that 8 is our largest factor that is in common. So we're going to pull that 8 out in front. And please note that we only have one x, which is from the first monomial or term here, which means that I cannot pull an x as a common piece, which means that now we're left to dividing out by our 8 and telling me what's left. So in order to do that, guys, to make an 8 into an 8x, we must multiply it by x. Now, if we want to figure out what times 8 would make 72, we just need to take our handy-dandy calculator and take 72 divided by 8, which is 9. So we have a plus 9 remaining. So guys, this is your factored form. Your factored form will have the GCF on the outside and whatever remains on the inside of your parentheses. Now to check yourself, you can distribute this back. So 8 times x is 8x, and 8 times positive 9 is positive 72. You have factored properly. All right, now let's take a look at example 2. Same idea. Notice that we don't have a number in front of c squared, so we're just going to automatically assume a 1. So our factors of 1 are 1 times 1, and our factors of 11 are 1 and 11. So that means our GCF must be a 1. And please note that we have 2 C's in the first term and 1 C in the second, which means we do have a common C that we can pull out front as part of our GCF. Now we're going to talk about what remains. So if I pull 1C out of 1C squareds, I'm missing a C because C times C is C squared. Plus, if I pull a 1 out of 11 or divide 11 by 1, I end up just getting 11 back, and you already took out the C. So there is no C at the end of your remainder. Guys, you have completely factored. So 1C with a remainder of C plus 11 left. All right, now let's take a look at number 3. Find me those factors of 3 and 12 first. It looks to be 3 is our GCF. And how you could have identified that from the beginning is that 3 goes into 12 4 times, and that's going to be very helpful. So we're going to end up writing our 3 as part of our GCF we are pulling. And now let's look at your variable. So you have 3 t's or t cubed, and we have t squared or 2 t's. So our greatest amount of t's we can pull is 2. So 3t squared is our GCF we are pulling. And now we're going to talk about what remains after I divide out by that 3. All right, so 3 divided by 3 is a 1. We can put a 1 here if we'd like. You have 2 t's that you have pulled out of 3. So how many t's remain? 1 more to make 3. All right, if I take negative 12 and I divide it by our GCF of 3, negative 12 divided by 3 is negative 4. Now, t squared was already taken out, so I will not have a t at the end of my remainder. Congratulations, guys. You found another GCF. Let's take a look at number 4 and number 5 as we roll along. So 27 and 30, find me your GCF. So I hope you notice that 3 is in common to both of our factored lists. So that is our GCF. We'll pull it out front. Now let's take a look at your x's and y. So as we look at our 3x's and 7x's, at maximum I can pull 3x's from both. So x cubed is part of my GCF. And for our y's, we have the same amount. So we are going to pull 3 y's from each. So y cubed as well. Now let's look at our remainder. How much is left after we take out 3x cubed, y cubed? So 27 divided by 3 is in fact 9. We have already pulled the x cubed out, and we pulled the y cubed out. So we will no longer have any variables as our remainder from the first piece. Minus, what is 30 divided by 3? Ooh, that is a 10. All right. Now, we pulled 3 x's out of the 7. So we still have 4 x's still remaining. We'll have x to the 4th still remaining inside of our parentheses. We pulled 3 as our common factor, but we actually had 7. So we have 4 more still chilling. Now the y cubed was taken outside, which means there are no y's remaining inside from our GCF pulling. All right, last one to go, guys. We notice that this one doesn't have any x's in common since the last term does not have an x, but 10, 25, and 20 share a common factor. And that factor is 5. 5 is the largest common factor between all of our terms. And again, guys, in terms of the x's, we have 3 from the first term, 1 from the second, and no x's in the last term. So I cannot pull a common x because the last term does not have one. All right, so no x's in common, which means we're ready to find our final remainder. So here's how it's going to go. 10 divided by 5 is 2. And we still have our x cubes involved since we did not take out any common x's. So negative 25 divided by 5 is negative 5. Again, the x stays because we did not pull out a GCF of x. And last but not least, guys, a positive 20 divided by 5 is a positive 4. And that is our remaining piece after we pull our GCF. So a quick little tidbit. You're going to pull your GCF out front. It may include some variables depending. And then what you have left over is what we call the remainder. All right, it's time to practice. Let's see how you do.